Did you want to know what the cheat code to wealth is? Well, I think I have found it. Let's live it up to the three amigos to discuss what the cheat code to wealth is. Folks, it is not the Starbucks factor. It is going after your biggest expense. It is living for free. It is doing it multiple times. Dion, the lumberjack, tell us what the cheat code to wealth is. And it is one of my financial regrets. I wish I had done this at 20. Enjoy. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time. And what we're going to talk about here is perhaps the easiest way for millennials, Gen Z, and anybody thinking about getting on the property ladder and truly building wealth. Dion once called this cheat code to wealth. I believe it was him. Might have been Matt. I forget who does all these things. These two smart guys. We're going to talk about house hacking. We're going to talk about house hacking in two flavors because we are going to have back-to-back Saturday deep dives, 9 a.m. on in my course. First with roommates, Todd Baldwin, Spencer Cornelia, and then the following week with you two talking about units. So Dion, why don't we give it to you first to talk about how important house hacking is to you, and then we'll get started.
So it's, I would say the reason why I was able to reach financial freedom in 8 years, starting from a really bad position. And I'll just do the Cliff Notes version. I was 40. Don't think I'd ever had $1,000 in the bank. Single parent with 3 kids, had just laid off from a police department because of the 2008 recession. Found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name that I didn't know existed until the divorce. 8 years to become bad debt free and made work optional. Then I worked for another 4 years and retired last week. So if it wasn't for house hacking, I might have one rental in the last 10 years. I wasn't making a lot of money. When I left the police department, I started teaching at a truck driving school, making $17 an hour. So it wasn't like I had a 6-figure job and I could just save up the next down payment. So there's 2 aspects to house hacking. The first one, almost everyone thinks of. I'm going to lower, reduce, or eliminate my housing expense, which for most people is our largest expense. For me, it was my biggest bill. For a lot of people, it hovers between taxes and housing. Those are your biggest bills usually. So to reduce that has the biggest impact on your saving. And so some people think, well, that means I'm going to rent out rooms in my place. I'm going to live in a small multifamily where I live in one unit and rent out the other. So I'm going to buy a house with an ADU, so I don't even want my walls touching. So someone else is going to be paying the mortgage. That's the one that most people think of. The version I was going to use when I first started had nothing to do with that. I was going to use low down payment, best interest rate, owner occupied loans to acquire a house, live in it for a year, then acquire another one, live in it for a year, just rinse and repeat. Found out single family houses in my area don't cash flow, so it wouldn't work. But that's the benefit to house hacking most people forget. Is you don't have to save 20 or 25% down on a $500,000 anything, which takes time for most people. It's 0 down for a first-time home buyer, 3% for conventional, 3.5% FHA, 5% conventional after your first one. I mean, there's all these on a $500,000 property. If you save $30,000 or $40,000, you can get on the property ladder. Yeah, over and over and over.
Yeah, I totally agree. Go ahead. I'll chime in later. And Matt, how important was house hacking to you in your journey?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we wouldn't have been able to do it. We just plain old wouldn't have been able to do it. We got the first few under our belt, but then when they changed to, you couldn't have more than 4 investment properties.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
When they made that change, I was dead in the water. I was like, what am I supposed to do? I can't do anything. So the only option that you have was to move from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And so that's what I did 9 times, 13 years.
Yeah. I believe house hacking should be taught to seniors in high school and as a basic thing in college, right? Freshman year. House hacking, to all of your point, right? I had never heard of house hacking. I'm sure it was out there. It may have been called something else, but it never hit my radar until I was in my 40s. I wasn't looking for it. So be it. I'm just saying it wasn't there. But it is without question the cheat code to wealth. Without question. If I had to do life over again, I would own something at 18 or 19 years old,
Yep.
it would be probably a 3.5% down thing.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And it's, again, I would have roommates. I understand. Again, if you're old like me, you're a curmudgeon. You don't like people. You immediately say you don't want a house hack. But as Dion will say right now, I'll just tee it up for him. He's going to point at something that I hadn't thought about. So I'll let him say it right now.
So 2 things before I try to pick on you a little.
That's okay.
The first thing is house hacking is being taught in high school. It's being taught at a young age because everybody talks about when you go to college, you need to have roommates. There's this little switch that's not being flipped where when we're renting, we're totally happy to have a roommate help us pay the rent. But when it's a mortgage in our name, something in our brain says, I don't want someone else helping me pay my mortgage. That's the switch that people need to flip and think, how do I continue to do that? And then the second thing is, you said it, you're a curmudgeon, you don't like people, right?
Yeah.
You currently live in a condo.
I do.
How long have you lived in a condo?
22 years.
All right. So your daughter was under 18 when you got the condo.
Oh yeah, she was.
Yeah. So
yeah,
you had neighbors.
Oh, we do.
Buildings that touched your building.
Yeah, I live in essentially a 5-plex. Essentially.
So you're in a 5. You're technically.
You're right.
Anti-house hacking. You're living like a house hacker, but you didn't benefit from collecting rents and being able to pick your neighbors.
Yeah, we essentially because when you brought that up off air, I'm like, you got to just hit me with that. We're paying an HOA, which essentially is the landlord, right? At least in my aspect, because they have the rules. They can give fines. They can say this or that. They keep the outside clean. So yeah, your point is valid, and I should think about it differently, right?
So yeah, and so not so much to attack you.
No, I thought fair. I think it was great.
But for the people who are watching, who live in a condo right now, who are thinking, I don't want a house hack, I've got a family. Think through what you just said.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. Like, and even if you live in a single family home, would you live in a condo? Most of us would. I mean, condos, townhouse, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, absolutely.
My question for everybody who's in a single family house is, do you have a neighbor? Yeah. How is that any different than having an ADU?
I agree. I totally agree. Yeah. Again, I think house hacking, at some point in life, you kind of retreat from it. That's just a natural reaction. I'm now with this aha moment. I think it's unfair. But again, Todd Baldwin and Spencer Cornelia are going to basically say exactly what you guys did. They did it to the next level, right? They have roommates. Now that, depending on where you are in life, might be too much. But again, if I was 18 all over again, I would own something. I would get the most bedrooms I could, and I would have roommates. And the key is, as you said, I would live for free. I would bank all that money so I could just rinse and repeat.
We did it. When we first got married, we actually had 2 roommates.
When you were married?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. Okay. I'll admit I didn't like it.
Yeah. How long did you have roommates?
About one of them was for 6 months. She got voted off the island.
Yeah.
And then the other one was about a year.
Okay.
About a year. Yep. Yeah. And then I was just kind of like, maybe my thriftiness has gotten to us a little bit, because I was already like, our mortgage was like $1,800. I was renting out the other side for $2,200. So I was making $400 a month living there and making some money off of the other people. And they're like, well, I'll pay electric and groceries, and then I'll pay cable and heat. And I'm like, okay. So it was like, I was getting paid $400 plus I didn't have any other bills.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was awesome to be able to compete. And the reason that it was kind of like a better idea was because that was when Ashley was going through nursing school. And so I was paying for nursing school.
Right.
And so I was already writing that check, and it was like, well, I mean, she's not bringing in any income. She just assumed stay a full-time student. I'm fine with that. Mm-hmm. So yeah, what the heck? We've got 5 bedrooms. What the heck do we need that for? It was the size of a duplex. It was just a big duplex.
No. Yeah. Again, I think house hacking, cheat code to wealth, I think that was aptly named. I think we need to push that more. I think more people need to consider it. Again, if it's not the latte factor, right? It's not stop buying $6 coffees. It's go attack your biggest expense and then get paid to live there if you can. I mean, if you break even, you take it to 0, but then you get paid $400. And then to Dion's point also, he talks about recycling capital or the income snowball. Sorry, get the phrase right. Income snowball. Once that gets going a couple of times, it really starts to go fast. I mean, Matt, you and I freely admit that kind of the recycling capital is where the magic is, but not everybody wants to do that.
Nope.
If you can just get the
Some
income.
retirees refuse. I mean, like, that's fine.
Yeah. Retirees. Zing.
Pink Panther, whatever. Pink Panther.
Yeah.
No, I think that the ability to recycle capital is what drastically speeds up the process.
But you've got to get to that inflection point, right?
You do. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, the other thing too is that, people are like, oh, anybody can be successful in that market. What's that, crypto boy? And so it's like, that's not necessarily true. And so I think that the thing about it is that, sure, one of Bill Belichick's favorite sayings is, I got to play who's on the schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
didn't build the schedule.
Yeah. I didn't make the schedule. I got to play who's next week. That's who I got to play. Mm-hmm. And so it's the same thing. It's being a great operator is what's going to be the difference of people that blow up good in the next 3 years and the ones that blow up bad and go away in the next 3 years. If you're a great operator, you are going to cash in like you read about. If you are not a good operator, you better get focused on getting and becoming a good operator. It's that simple.
Yeah.
So if I could really quick,
please.
I'll do the Cliff Notes version. Here's how powerful house hacking was. And one of the things that comes up is a lot of people saying, I don't want to move every year. Okay. I've been investing 12 years. I've moved twice.
Okay.
The first time I moved into a duplex and took my housing from an apartment where I was paying $1,500 a month, reduced it to $300 a month. Basically able to save $1,200 a month when I was making $17 an hour. That's a significant amount when that's what you're making. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I moved from the duplex into the fourplex where I'm at now. So I've moved twice. That's it. The fourplex that I'm at now, when you house hack a fourplex, since there's more units, you don't only just reduce your housing. I was making $1,700 a month in profit when I moved into the fourplex. Wow. And that sounds great. But now I can rent out the unit in the duplex. And instead of paying $300 a month, at that time, I was making $800 a month in profit. It's more than that now.
Yeah. The
fourplex I'm in right now, and I am, because I travel a little bit, I have a roommate. So I still rent out a room in my unit here so that there's someone there when I'm gone. And because they have a cat and I like to play with animals, but I don't want a pet. I'm being paid in this fourplex $2,500 a month to live here. That's going to cover my travel, just this one property. And so if we just take the fourplex and forget that the duplex is now cash flowing, but just this fourplex, so $2,500 a month for me to live here, without looking at what somebody makes for a living, what my job was that I quit last week. I'm making $2,500 a month. Most people are paying, and we'll do it low. Let's say $1,500 a month for the mortgage or the rent.
Yep, fair.
There's a $4,000 gap in our incomes before we look at what we do for work. Yeah, from just where we live.
Yeah, before anything else, you're starting at a $4,000 gap.
True story.
Right.
Yeah. So, folks, again, I'm so excited. I'm really excited these deep dives have taken off because I didn't know if they'd work. They're working awesome. We're bringing experts to student to ask questions real time. It's working well. I'm ecstatic to talk about topics I know nothing about. Again, I stay in my lane. And to have experts come on to talk about it with our students is awesome. So again, this Saturday, 9 a.m., Todd Baldwin, Spencer Cornelier talking house hacking roommates. The following Saturday, which if math serves me well is the 23rd, 9 a.m., will be house hacking units with these two fine gentlemen. Thank you guys for doing this. Dion, where can people find you?
They can find me right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom. I do my live streams Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific. And I really think people should tune in this Saturday so understand what I'm about to say. I'm financially free. I retired early. I like to watch everything Todd Baldwin puts out. Me too. That's somebody who's so successful and smart that when I see it, I get my notepad out. So people should come Saturday. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. And Matt, where can people find you?
Lumberjack Landlord on YouTube and on Instagram, my 11:30 live streams on Sundays. And I am actually currently house hacking. I just didn't realize it. My 3 kids are getting a lease when they get home. Exactly. We will rent by the room. Samuel, Bryn, and Eliana, figure it out. and it's not going to come out of your allowance.
You got to do something else. Oh, guys, thank you very much. Take care.
Yeah.